It's 11:47 on a Tuesday night, and you're sitting on the edge of your bed with your phone in your hand. You've just opened the credit card app, the one you swore you'd stop checking at night, and there's the balance. Then you swipe over to the other one. Then the student loan portal, because you remembered the autopay went through Monday. You do the math you've done 100 times. You subtract the minimums. You look at what's left in checking. You calculate how many months at this rate until the number hits 0. And the answer is the same answer it was last month. You're not broke. You have a job. You got the raise. You skipped the vacation. You bought the store brand cereal. You are doing, by every measure, the responsible thing. And somehow, the balances don't move. The weight on your chest doesn't lift, and you can't quite remember the last time you made a decision about money that wasn't really a decision about debt. So why does doing everything right feel exactly like doing nothing at all? This is Rocket Finance. In the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through what actually changes when you finally pay off debt. Not the motivational version, the measurable version, the cognitive version, the decision-making version, the version with receipts. If you want the real math on why being debt-free hits different, stick around and hit subscribe so the next one finds you. Here's the thing, nobody at your bank is going to tell you. The system you're navigating wasn't built to get you out of debt. It was built to keep you servicing it. According to the Federal Reserve data Bankrate compiles in its weekly national survey, credit card interest rates are sitting at historic highs. And the entire revenue model of a major card issuer depends on the assumption that you will carry a balance, pay the minimum, and stay in the relationship for years. Bankrate has reported extensively on what they call the attorney model loophole, where debt relief companies rent law licenses to charge fees that would otherwise be illegal. A $27,000 debt becomes a predatory contract because the people who are supposed to help you are paid by how long you stay stuck. The Mint app, which millions of people use to track their way out of this, shut down on January 1st, 2024. Title loans, payday products, buy now, pay later, these are not accidents. They are products, with margins, with shareholders, with quarterly targets. You are a rational person trying to win a game where the rules were written by the house. Now let's talk about what the numbers actually say. Experian's 2021 data put the total average consumer debt balance in the United States at $96,371, a 3.9% increase from the year before. That's not a moral failure across 250 million adults. That's a structural reality. And in a more recent national survey, Experian found that 45% of U.S. adults who paid off unmanageable debt say it improved their lives. Half of the people surveyed specifically said the change was less worry and more peace of mind. The methods worked, but they weren't elegant. 36% took on a second job or a side hustle. 26% used the snowball method. 23% leaned on budgeting apps. And 70% of respondents, after climbing out, said they were now actively avoiding buy now, pay later and limiting credit card use. Not because some guru told them to, but because once you felt the weight come off, you don't want it back on. Consider Jasmine, 27, a communications manager who graduated into a starter salary in New York City carrying both student loans and credit card debt. For 2 years between rent and groceries and the MTA, she made essentially no headway. When the pandemic hit, she moved home to Arizona, and in 6 months of focused payments, she cleared everything. When she moved back to New York, she did it without roommates. That is not a motivational story. That is a $1,800 a month rent line that became possible because there was no longer a $400 a month minimum payment line above it. Or consider a 42-year-old warehouse supervisor in Columbus, Ohio, making $54,000 who carries 4 separate balances, a car loan, 2 cards, and a medical bill in collections. He's not bad with money, he pays every minimum on time. But every payday he opens 4 different apps, looks at 4 different balances, and feels 4 different small failures. That's not a discipline problem, that's a structural problem, and it has a name. This is where the research gets genuinely interesting. A study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences tracked 196 low-income households in Singapore who received a one-time debt relief grant from a charity. The researchers measured cognitive function, anxiety, and decision-making before and after. Here's what they found. Clearing one additional debt account, not paying off more dollars, just closing one more account, improved cognitive functioning by about a quarter of a standard deviation. That effect size is comparable to a full night of sleep. It's equivalent to the difference between a 50-year-old score and a 23-year-old score on the same test. The proportion of participants showing symptoms of generalized anxiety dropped from 78% to 53%. Present bias. The tendency to grab a smaller reward now instead of a larger one later dropped by 10%. Risk aversion loosened. People started making longer-term decisions. And here's the part that should make you sit up. The dollar amount of debt relief mattered far less than the number of separate accounts closed. To replicate the cognitive improvement of closing one account, a participant had to receive roughly a full month of household income in pure dollar relief. The accounts themselves were the tax. This is the mechanism. It's called the bandwidth tax, and it works like this. Your brain treats each debt as a separate mental account. The mortgage, the car loan, the 2 cards, the medical bill, the buy now pay later balance from that one couch, they don't add up into one number in your head. They sit as 5 or 6 different open files, each one quietly running in the background, each one consuming a small slice of attention even when you're not thinking about it. Behavioral economists call this mental accounting, and the research from Prelec and Lowenstein going back to 1998 shows that owing money is not psychologically fungible. 2 $5,000 debts hurt more than one $10,000 debt, even though the math is identical. That's why the snowball method works, even though the avalanche method is mathematically superior. It's not because people are bad at math. It's because closing an account, any account, actually frees up cognitive bandwidth in a measurable way. Your brain gets a slice of itself back, and that returned bandwidth is what lets you make the next good decision, and the one after that, and the one after that. So when you ask what actually changes when you pay off debt, here's the honest answer. You sleep better, yes, but more importantly, you think better. The Singapore study found that people stopped being as present biased, meaning they could once again evaluate a 401k match, or a longer-term investment, or whether to take a job that paid less now, but more later. Without the cognitive distortion that chronic debt creates, you stop being financially short-sighted because the thing making you short-sighted is gone. You become less risk-averse in productive ways, willing to negotiate a salary, willing to leave a job that's underpaying you, willing to start the thing you've been talking about for years. And there's a second, quieter shift. Anxiety drops. Not to zero. Life still happens. The car still breaks. The kid still needs braces. But the chronic background hum, the thing that made you check the app at 11:47 on a Tuesday, goes quiet. CFA and CFP spoken about this describes it as a sense of peace and control over every dollar. That's not motivational language. That's the felt experience of having your bandwidth back. The other thing that changes is your relationship to credit itself. Jasmine, the New York example, said it cleanly. She learned not all debt is bad debt. Student loans bought her a career. A mortgage at a reasonable rate is not a credit card at 24%. Once you've been out, you can actually evaluate the tool instead of being controlled by it. You can use a credit card for the rewards and pay it off every month because the card is no longer using you. So back to you, sitting on the edge of the bed at 11:47, doing the math you've already done. Here's what the research and the data are telling you. You are not failing at money. You are paying a cognitive tax that the financial system has every incentive to keep collecting. The reason the numbers don't move is not that you're not trying hard enough. The reason the weight doesn't lift is not that you lack discipline. You are running 5 or 6 background processes that the system is structurally designed to keep open. And every minimum payment is a subscription fee on your own attention. The plain takeaway is this: closing accounts matters more than you've been told, and the relief you feel when one disappears is not in your head. It's a measurable return of cognitive function. Start with the smallest one, close it completely, then the next one. Not because the math is optimal, but because your brain is the actual asset you're trying to recover. You are not behind. The target moved. And the quiet life on the other side of those balances is closer than the app makes it look. If this reframed something for you, hit subscribe and stick around. This is Rocket Finance.